Good morning. At a India Today conclave which was held last week, there was a one session where India's senior most military officer, Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan was present. He was asked a number of questions and all his responses, to put it straight, were embarrassing and disturbing. So what I intend doing is I have picked up 5 of his responses which I wish to discuss. But to keep the video not very long, in this particular one, I will discuss his one response only, and the remaining 4 I will discuss in a separate video which will be online tomorrow. So let me get on with the first response, what he gave. So the general was asked, what are the challenges facing India? Obviously, from a military perspective, he said that as far as external challenges are concerned, they are of 2 types. They are predictable and they are unpredictable. The predictable challenge, he said, are the 2 unsettled borders India has, the one with Pakistan and the other with China. The predictability part of this is, he asserted that we know the threats which are there on the line of actual control with Pakistan and the line of actual control with China. According to him, the Indian military knows exactly what the threat is. Now, regarding the unpredictable challenge, he said, the warfare is changing very fast. The character of war is changing fast. So this is a big challenge because we have to see constantly what sort of weapon systems, technology, tactics, organizational structures will be required to meet the challenge. Now, my responses to what he said. We know that PLA today is at the cutting edge of modern warfare. It is at the cutting edge of this changing character of war. And PLA also is India's primary threat. So the question is, if the general is not clear about the character of war, about the PLA war, how exactly is he asserting that we understand what is the threat at the line of actual control? It doesn't square up. But ironically, the larger issue is that the PLA war is understood. It is very clear how the character of war is changing, exactly what direction it is taking, and where it will be, let's say, in 2030 and beyond. It's very clear. So what I'll do is, in 5 points, I will try and discuss the PLA's war for the benefit of Anil Chauhan and perhaps the Indian military leadership. So the first point is that the PLA, it has integrated the physical and the virtual domains of war. Physical domains, Army, Air Force, Navy, Space. Virtual domains, cyberspace, electromagnetic spectrum, total 6 of them. Now, when you integrate this and make it a whole, what this means is, now all these domains singly, everything that happens in the domain will be tactics according to the core competency of a particular domain. That means what the Army does on land is all tactics. What the Air Force does in air is all tactics. There are no operations here. But when you put them together, you integrate them. That is when it becomes operations. And you integrate them to get a favorable outcome. So that is what the operations is. So let's not first of all mix up between tactics and operations, and it is at operational level that the generalship or the operational art comes into play. That's point number 1. Now, next. When the physical domains were there, then we spoke of platforms. We spoke of platforms on land, tanks, then your guns, they're all platforms. Then in the air domain, we spoke of aircraft, combat aircraft and such things. And we spoke of ships in the other physical domain. So now the issue is that when you combine all these 6 domains, then you realize that you do not speak any longer about platforms, you transit from platforms to capabilities. Because there are no platforms in, let's say, cyberspace. There are no platforms in the electromagnetic spectrum which generates the electronic fires. So now we should be looking at capabilities. So this is a big thing. Second thing that has happened, you come to capabilities. Now, next is that when you look at all the domains, you realize that the reaction time of, let's say, a soldier, a sailor, a pilot, then electronic fires which go at speed of light, or in space of the orbital, how the orbits move, they're all different. That means when the reaction times are different of all these capabilities, then you cannot build your war concept or how you will fight a war with the command and control infrastructure at the middle of it based on domains and geography. You have to look for something else. Because think about it, it doesn't work there. So what you do is that instead of now building your war concepts around geography and domain, you build it around mission sets. Mission set means mission that you wish to accomplish, the outcome. That means now you are building up your war concepts according to, based on the outcome. What is it that you wish to accomplish at the target? So there are two things now, mission sets and time. I will discuss both, but first the mission sets. Now when you are talking of outcome, then in a campaign, the key thing, as I said, is outcome. It is irrelevant which capability from which domain you have used for the desired outcome. For example, because the Indian military will fight only in 3 physical domains, so the Indian Air Force will use a lot of its capabilities for air superiority. That is a must, which will not be the case with the PLA. PLA will come up with operational surprises. How? Because instead of using PLAF, PLA Air Force, they will use their rocket force for air dominance. Their rocket force, which is a huge inventory of land-based missiles, so they can do the air dominance part, and the PLAF can be used, their bombers, there's so many 5th and 4th generation aircraft only for offensive action, plus their drones. So you see, this is the operational surprise then, because everything is now based on capability. What is the outcome that we are looking at? So this is something that has to be understood. Then our responses have to be generated, have to be created accordingly. So when we talk of integrating these two, the physical domain and the virtual domain, this is what the PLA calls informatized warfare. Why it is informatized warfare? It has to do with information. How do we deny information to the enemy, and how do we retain our total information, and hence war control over the war? How do you do that? So the PLA will do that using their virtual domain capabilities, which is cyber, electromagnetic spectrum, and they will use their space capability. This is one continuum which will be used to deny complete blackout, to do blackout of communications in the combat zone as far as the Indian military is concerned, because the Indian military has no corresponding capability. So this is informatized warfare. Now, I mentioned about time. I said mission sets and time. Time takes me to the second point. Time will be important when there are peer competitors. That means it's the PLA fighting with the US military. So the speed of war will be accelerated because each side will want to be inside the kill chain of the other side to respond to a situation faster than the other side. that is getting inside the loop of the kill chain of the other side. So eventually what we'll see is this is where artificial intelligence comes in, AI. And AI will come in the physical domain in the form of robots. And what we will see is that slowly the command and control from the humans, it will pass to the AI machine clusters. This will happen. But again, this will take time. And the good thing is that if the PLA decides to go to war with Indian military, it can have a major advantage over the US military in the employment of artificial intelligence in actual combat, and I'll tell you how. And this is my second point, by the way. So how they will have an advantage is that as far as PLA is concerned, it is a great power which will fight in 6 domains. Indian military will fight only in 3 domains of war. That is what we have today. Therefore, time is of no essence. As I said, that they can exercise war control by controlling that continuum in the virtual domain. So therefore, they have an option. They will have an option of using artificial intelligence in combat by actually fighting 6 tactical wars. Why can't they fight that? Use artificial intelligence on them, learn the operation lesson there, and then put them in their campaign. And what will be these 7 wars? Sorry, they will be the missile war, the drone war, the invisible war. Invisible is the war where cyber and electromagnetic spectrum, that means 2 fire, cyber fire, electronic fire, they come into play. Then space war, land war, air war, sea war. So time will not be a constraint. In fact, this could be a stepping stone for the PLA to be better prepared to have an advantage over US military. This is my second point of the PLA war, and this is called the intelligence-sized war. Now, my third point. Drones are commonplace today. When I say drones, they are the manifestation. Eventually, they'll become the manifestation, artificial intelligence, manifestation in machines. There'll be the drones, and drones are there in air, drones are there on land, and drones are there on sea and undersea. And of course, drone, because they are physical beings, so they can only be in the physical domains and not in the virtual domains. What you have in the virtual domain is malware. That is a separate thing altogether. Now, what we are seeing today is an extensive use of drones. Again, let's not draw the wrong lessons from Ukraine. This is something I will discuss in the video tomorrow. But I just wish to caution here that when 2 powers, one is a great power and a medium power, when they fight, then the use of drones also changes. So what we are seeing is that today drones have come everywhere, and what we will see slowly as the human trust in AI machines, it builds up. As we move from narrow artificial intelligence to general artificial intelligence, which no computer scientist is putting a timeline to. I mean, there is a huge gap what people talk of when it will come or it won't come. So let's not discuss that. But the key thing here is slowly, it's all software driven war. Slowly, as the human trust in artificial intelligence clusters and machines, it increases, we will see these drones will become killer robots. Now, killer robot is a colloquial term. The other term is laws, lethal autonomous weapons. Now, what killer robots or law means is that the human will give the task to the robot, and the robot, then having got the task, by itself will decide how to accomplish that task and will go and accomplish the task. Now, this is very different, and this is all coming now. It's coming perhaps by the end of this year. It's all here. This is different from Terminators, which is what we then talk about general artificial intelligence. where the robot decides the tasks also by itself. Now, this is a scary scenario. When if the robot becomes capable of deciding the task and then going and accomplishing the task and the human has no role to play, that's a dangerous situation, but we are nowhere there right now. So what we have to keep in mind is that there are two issues that the Americans are facing vis-a-vis the PLA. The first issue is that they have realized that the PLA, because PLA is at the home base, they are sitting there. And the Americans have to come from hundreds and thousands of miles, although they are strengthening their bases around China, around Taiwan, around South China Sea, around East China Sea, strengthening and building more bases. But the fact of the matter is they are seized of the reality that the PLA has more ships, more missiles, more tanks, and because of this, in August 2023, American Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks, she came out with a program called a Replicator program. The whole idea is that Americans said that instead of trying to match a tank for a tank or a missile for a missile or a ship for a ship, what we need is we need all domain autonomous system which are at scale, which are cheap and which are attributable. So this is what they are looking at, and they wish to accomplish this in 18 to 24 months. I mean, this is the speed at which things are moving. And as I said, PLA is at the forefront of war. Another thing that both the militaries are looking at is humanoid robots. And we know the companies in America and we know the companies in China which are working on humanoid robots. And to use humanoid robots will be a major advantage for the PLA for the simple reason that they have been sitting facing India for the last 4 years and they have collected a lot of training data, which is a critical ingredient for humanoid robots. So this is the second point, the third point. Now the fourth point we come to, which is that when we talk of training data, that means there are so many sensors which have been put. We know starting August 2020, the PLA in Eastern Ladakh, they brought their 5G wireless systems right till the edge of the territory that they are occupying. So my next fourth point is that intelligence supremacy will be the core of modern war. This is the point. That means big data, preferably training data, operational data, it will count as much in a war which is where artificial intelligence is there as hardware and software. This should be seen as the third pillar. Now, when you have so many sensors, and as far as India and China are concerned, the whole combat space is defined. That means a very key thing that Anil Chauhan and his leadership has to keep in mind is that the PLA will have total situation awareness. Please remember they have their Bedu system also with 45 satellites and very much over this combat zone. So there is nothing that is hidden from them. Therefore, where exactly you will put your command and control physically will be a very, very difficult proposition. This is a thing that has to be thought about. And the last point is, what are we looking at? We are looking at a total mix of cognitive and operational doctrines. Operational, I have explained. What is the cognitive part in this? Cognitive part is that all this warfare will not be limited to the combat zone. It will be also go to what is called the war zone, which is the whole of India. The cyber capabilities will be there and they will use extensively their counter space capabilities. So it will be a mix of these two. That means the war is touching the political leadership, the people and the soldiers at the same time. Now let me summarize this, what I have said so far. As far as PLA war is concerned, it's in three parts, which is mechanization, mechanized warfare, which is about platforms. And then you network the platforms, that is the network centricity of the platforms. The Indian military is only at this stage of warfare today. The second thing for them is informatized warfare, whereas I explained that they have 6 capabilities, and it no longer is about platforms like the mechanized warfare. This informatized warfare is about capabilities. And this is something that they accomplished the mechanized warfare in 2020, and by this 2024 they have accomplished the informatized war also against Indian military. They are ready for war with a level that is not even understood by the Indian military leadership. And the third is their intelligence-ized warfare. That means a use of artificial intelligence both inside the systems as well as outside in the physical domain in terms of robots. That is a use of artificial intelligence in informatized warfare. And for the information of the Indian military leadership, they have compressed all three of them. And by 2027 is the deadline that the PLA has given. 2027 happens to be the 100 years of the PLA. When they say that they would have accomplished this capability, all three together, and they will be in a position to fight, referring to the US military in the Western Pacific. That means if they are to go there, and there are great chances, this is a subject for another video, that the stepping stone will be the Indian military to go there. So it can well be kept in mind that how close we are to a likely war under the Modi government, which has been provoking the Chinese constantly, not even aware that its own military leadership does not even understand the PLA war. I'm really sorry to say all this, but there are two suggestions I have to make for the CDS and the top leadership of the Indian military. My first suggestion is, in his entire interaction, I heard Anil Chauhan talk of tactics. He never once used the word operations. Now, I remember it was many years back when Air Chief Marshal S.P. Tyagi used to be the Chief of Air Staff. I had met him in his office, we were talking, and he told me that one thing that I have done is, because the Indian Air Force thinks too much of tactics, so I have told everybody. He says, even the non-combatants in the Air Force, stop talking tactics, just use the word strategy. That means we have strategic reach now. So let's get this in the mind. I think it will help. And my second suggestion is that I firmly believe that our leadership, considering that we have both the borders with two adversaries live, they should not come on television shows because they expose their lack of knowledge, and not coming will be a deterrence because the enemy will keep guessing how much the Indian military leadership actually understands warfare. Thank you so much.